The JX3 Hybrid is actually a pretty simple system to be able to use, so in this video I'll go over the steps that you need to be able to efficiently climb up a tree and get ready to hunt. So once arriving to the tree, the first thing you want to do is typically take the system off, and oftentimes you'll have whatever climbing method that you're going to be using either connected to the outside of the hybrid like this, or in between the seat and the frame. Now these clips right here and these straps that I have these climbing sticks held on to the system with, these also double as the leg straps. So I'll just go ahead and disconnect these, which gives me the ability to go ahead and take those climbing sticks off. And I'll just set those there for now. And with the system itself, you can now, if you'd like, just let that seat hang down and you can put the system on. Now, one additional thing I'll do at this step is I'll go ahead and disconnect the bridge and just let that hang. So now at this point, to fully connect the hybrid to your body, what you'll want to do is take the waistband, go ahead and connect it, and just tighten it up so it's nice and comfortable. And now the last step for being able to attach the harness to your body is the leg loops. And remember, those leg loops I had just unhooked to be able to take my climbing sticks off. So to get access to those, I'll just reach between the legs, grab both of those straps, and then they connect right in here on those buckles, right on the waistline. And then while you're climbing, there's two things you're going to want to have access to. Number one is your lamins rope. You'll want to use that basically from ground level all the way up to hunting height. And number two is your tether. The tether you'll want to have access to either one when you're going around a limb as kind of a backup lamins rope, or number two to set up on the tree once you're at hunting height. Both of these ropes are currently daisy chained up and attached to the saddle with those Molly D-shaped attachment rings. So now, once your first stick or whatever climbing method you're going to use is attached to the tree, at this point you're basically able to get everything else prepped to be ready to climb. And so for additional climbing sticks, oftentimes what you can do is you can attach those to the hybrid using the modularity of the pack and adding additional rings or loops or things like that. And then oftentimes you'll be able to use a hoist to be able to pull up your bow. And then with your lamins rope, go ahead and open up that D-shaped ring. Undo the daisy chain just by pulling that rope right out, and then you can go ahead, throw that rope around the tree and attach it right into the lamins loop directly on that waistband. And then you can go ahead and pull the slack out of that rope, and now you're basically ready to go up to the next step. Now the trick with this lamins rope is you want to make sure that you always kind of keep a little bit of tension in that rope. You want to try and keep it at or above waist level. You don't want to let that thing fall down and kind of hang slack around your knees. If there was a limb that you would need to go around, what you would want to do in that case to make sure that you can stay attached to the tree 100% of the time is go ahead and take off that tether from the harness. Go ahead and undo that daisy chain that's holding it together. And then you could just take this rope, go ahead and take the loop, girth hitch it onto that same lamins loop that you have connecting your lamins rope. And then you can run this thing around the tree and hook it into the other side right here. So you basically have a second lamins rope that would allow you then to pass that over the branch, unclip your initial lamins rope, get that one above, and then continue climbing up the tree. But since right now I'm basically at hunting height, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll put this tether on the tree. And typically with the hybrid, a higher tether height tends to work out pretty well. It allows you to get maximum mobility around the tree, but you can kind of play around with tether height as a variable and find what's best and most comfortable for you. So you'll go ahead and loop that harness right through, girth hitch that rope to the tree, and then you want to take this little stopper ball and just slide that right up and that'll prevent that rope from loosening up and sliding down the tree. Go ahead and move that carabiner up a little bit higher in the rope so you can actually hang from it. And then what you want to do now is go ahead and take that bridge, and now you can reconnect it. Okay, so I'll take that bridge and I'll hold it up above the lamins rope, connect it to this carabiner on the right side, adjust the carabiner appropriately so that I can make sure I hook myself with that bridge into the carabiner. And at this point, I can go ahead and sit right into the seat. I'll want to make sure I loosen up that lamins rope just a little bit. Okay. And that's basically it. At this point, you can go ahead and detach the lamins rope completely. And then if you want to keep this guy kind of out of sight, out of mind, what I personally like to do is I like to actually have it going across my waist just so that it doesn't interfere with anything that's going on the shot side. And then I'll oftentimes just go ahead and take that carabiner and just stick it into a cargo pocket of my pants. You'll want to adjust these straps right here to adjust your reclining angle. So if you want that seat a little bit higher up, you just tighten those up a little bit, and now you can basically lean back, and that gives you perfect back support. Now at this point you can also adjust the length of that fork depending on some trees. Sometimes you'll find you'll want that fork a little bit longer out. Sometimes on trees you find that that fork stuck in all the way tends to work a little bit better. It's just something you kind of learn with practice. Now, if you find that it's a little bit hard for your feet to actually reach that climbing stick, then you'll want to go ahead and adjust your bridge height. Because of the way that the hybrid works, you don't need to have foot contact to be able to hold your position, but it helps to be able to maneuver around the tree and get various shot opportunities. So like in this case, with my feet just kind of being a little bit too high relative to that climbing stick, I'll drop down just a little bit. And you can do that just with the carabiner itself. Okay, I've made that adjustment. And now you can see I have a lot better contact with that climbing stick itself, and I can maneuver around the tree a lot easier than I could before. So again, it's kind of one of those things that once you get the hybrid, you can set it up on a tree in your backyard and kind of figure it out, and then it's like, okay, yeah, this starts to make sense, this is where I need it to be, and eventually it just becomes second nature. So you'll want to attach whatever item you're going to be using to hang your bow from. So I'm just going to be using a little accessory strap to be able to do that. The hybrid also has a couple of D-ring hooks right here that work for holding a bow, which I'll show in just a second. But first I'll get this hook system set up around the tree. And just for a little bit of extra mobility, what I like to do is just take those shoulder straps off at this point. They're really not needed at this point. It's not like you're going to be able to fall out. And I got the leg straps and the waist strap also on at this point. Go ahead and hang that bow and you're ready to hunt. Even though the hybrid allows you to move entirely around the tree, oftentimes you'll find that if you can set yourself up so that your deer movement comes right to your strong side, it's the absolute least amount of movement to be able to pick up your bow, come to full draw, and shoot. So that's something to keep in mind when you're picking a tree and picking a location to set up in. I mentioned that the hybrid has built-in bow holding capabilities. And so to do that, you'll just want to open up those two little D-shaped rings right there, and then you can hang your bow from the string with the arrow right in between those two hooks. And then your bow rests comfortably just like that. And oftentimes this is even less amount of movement just to be able to, as you're sitting there, slowly drop that hand down, pick up that bow, draw back and shoot. Your strong side shot is typically always going to be your easiest shot. And one of the reasons also I like to take off those shoulder straps is it just gives me a little bit of extra mobility in the upper body when I need it if I'm trying to make that shot. Even with a single climbing stick with a nice wide top like this one, if you want to walk around to the backside of the tree to take a shot, it's not an issue. The one thing you can do that you might find helpful is take that fork and start it around by taking it off the tree, kicking it around and letting it bite on the side of the tree. Then when you push yourself around, it makes that whole thing a lot easier. So you can see there's really not much of any angle that you can't get to on your strong side. Now let's say that deer is right behind you. You want to be able to kind of do a drop shot and be able to get back to that location. Again, not a big deal. All you have to do with the hybrid is just turn that direction. You can use other steps around the tree, but oftentimes it's not really necessary because of the way that that fork bites into the bark. Now, if a deer was even further than directly behind me, what I would try to do is, again, kick that fork out from the tree, reposition it on this side, and then draw back and take that shot. So you can see here that if I wanted to, I can get just about to that same angle that I was able to get to by rotating around the tree the other direction. An alternative move to be able to make that same shot to that direction of the tree, which is typically going to be your hardest angle shot, would be to cross the bow over top of the bridge like this. And you can go ahead and make that shot on that side of the tree. Now it can be really nice on those long day sits to open up this reclining position and just be able to really sit back there. There's absolutely zero pressure on your knees. They aren't touching the tree at all because of that fork. So you can really sit back here and just let the hours drift away while you're waiting for that deer. And then once again, if you want to be ready to shoot, it doesn't matter that that seat is reclined. You can still sit up tall and be able to maneuver like normal. One additional note, if you're sitting with the seat fully reclined up, you can stand and you can lean, but you are a little bit kind of folded. You can't fully extend out of that position. Whereas by contrast, if you have the seat a little bit more reclined and you feel like you want to stand up and lean, it's a little bit easier to do that and you can actually get full extension. A lot of guys like leaning in a saddle. This one in particular, I feel like is most comfortable and most useful in a sitting position with a higher bridge height. Again, it's kind of one of those personal comfort level things. But if you want to be able to stand and just kind of stretch your legs or do whatever, you certainly can with this kind of saddle and this kind of system. Now once you're ready to climb back down, it's almost just the opposite of what you did to get up the tree in the first place. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and get the bow ready and drop the bow down. Second step climbing down, remove any kind of accessory that you did have on the tree to be able to carry your bow, if indeed you did have it. Drop that in my cargo pocket. And now I want to take that lamins rope back out, put it around the tree. Important to do this before detaching the tether. Now the last thing you'll want to do before you're actually ready to start climbing down is go ahead and put those shoulder straps on if you had already taken them off. With the shoulder straps back on, the lamins rope around the tree, you'll want to go ahead and take that lamins rope and just take all the slack out of it, tighten it up. What that'll allow for is once you actually put weight on your feet and stand up, you already have tension on that lamins rope and you have some slack in the tether. That'll make it really easy to detach the tether, detach the bridge, and then you can go ahead and take the tether off the tree. Now, with the tether, if you don't feel the need, if you don't have those branches that you need to actually use the tether to help get around, you can either just toss it right down from the tree and pack everything up once you get to the base of the tree, or you can go ahead and daisy chain that rope up at this point. And so the way to daisy chain that rope up is to put your hand through the loop on the end of the tether, grab the rope, pull it through, put your hand through the new loop, grab the rope, pull it through, grab the rope, pull it through, grab the rope, pull it through, and just continue that entire process of making a new loop, grabbing the rope, and creating an additional loop until you have the entire tether all bundled up. You'll end up with a loop on this side, the original loop. I like to take those, put them together, take the carabiner, put them through both of those loops, and I can take this and go ahead and hang it in that D-shaped accessory hook on the side of the harness. And now you're able to take that lamins rope and just work your way right back down the tree. Once at the base of the tree, you can go ahead and pack all your stuff up. And then for the lamins rope, what I like to do, since I already have the tether daisy chained and clipped into this side, I'll just take this lamins rope, do the exact same thing, where I'll daisy chain it up and then clip it into this D accessory ring on this side of the harness. Now, since the hybrid is basically built on a pack frame, you have the ability to attach a little bit heavier loads than you would normally be able to. And I'm going to show you basically how you want to do that to kind of get the best performance out of that load hauling capability. So to start with, you can just lay this thing out flat on the ground. And really there's three straps. There's these two vertical straps, and then there is this horizontal strap underneath. And then these are going to be separate from those straps that we used for using as the leg loops. I'll use those in just a second. But to actually secure this load tightly to the frame, we're going to use these three straps. And then for demonstration, I'm just going to be using a 40-pound bag of salt. Go ahead and attach this first one. And again, we're just going right through that loop with the hook. Tighten it down. Do the exact same thing with the other one. Hook through the loop. Pull tight. And then we have our horizontal strap going all the way across. And just like with the other two, hook goes through the loop, pull it tight. You don't want it to have to move around a lot. So if this is, like a set of deer quarters, you want that weight nice and tight to your back, not flopping around all over the place. Once the load is secure, we can go ahead and flip up the seat. And now we'll take those straps that we had used for the leg straps and we'll clip these in place. And really what we're trying to do with these straps is we're just holding the seat in place so that it doesn't rock around and flop while you're trying to walk. It keeps everything kind of nice and secure to your back, even though those three bottom straps are what's actually doing most of the load securement. Now, once you're ready to pick up this load, what can make it easy is to actually put it on your thigh first. So we'll pick this thing up and you just set it on your thigh like that in kind of a squat position. Then you go ahead and put the shoulder straps on. Okay. And you want to get that hip belt nice and snug. And if you find that if you practice this and it's a little bit too hard on the hips, there are aftermarket pads that you can put on these hip belts. Once the hip belt is tight, you can go ahead and make sure the shoulder straps are tight by kind of snugging that load close to your back and then pushing down and back. And then the final attachment would just be this chest strap. One thing to notice about the hybrid is that if we look at the seat, there's actually 3 of these little standoffs on these corners. So what that means is that when the seat lays flat on the ground, it's actually suspended a little bit. So there's a little bit of clearance here. And so the net effect is that when you sit on this thing, it's like you're sitting in a lawn chair. You can pretty easily rig this thing up so that the frame actually gives you back support when you're on the ground, just like it would in a tree stand, but you don't need the tether to be able to do it. So basically all you have to do is take these carabiners. I just took these same carabiners off the tether and the lamins rope, and you can go ahead and connect them into these small loops in the corners. And then with this material on the side here, you just take this last loop here and you can go ahead and clip that carabiner right in. Same thing on the opposite side. Find that last loop and go ahead and clip it right into that carabiner. You're able to tighten down these straps and make it so you have that backrest. So whether or not you want to be perfectly vertical or you want to be able to lean back a little bit and relax, you're able to accommodate it just by adjusting those straps and the tension on them. So in order to be able to flip that seat up, you need to have those adjustment straps loose enough so that the seat can just hang down like this. Then that allows you to go ahead and flip that seat up, hook it in place, walk around if you want to. Of course, you can strap turkey decoys or whatever else you want to on the back of this thing. And then once you're ready to actually sit down, you would just take that seat, let it flip down like this, and then when you go to sit, what I usually like to do is I just kind of tuck the seat under that first knee when I'm going to sit down, and I just kind of grab that adjustment bolt and just kind of hold that position as I drop down to that one knee, and then go ahead and sit. And now at this point, the straps are still loose, so I'll just go ahead and take those tag ends of those straps and just tighten them up to whatever your desired comfort level is. Then of course you can take those straps off from your shoulders, and then you have that additional range of motion on your upper body. Getting back up is pretty much the same thing in reverse. Put the shoulder straps on first, and one thing you'll want to do is just take those adjustment straps and just make sure they're loosened up so that when you rotate and stand, that seat is loose enough to be able to actually flip it back up onto your shoulders. So you can see right here, this is about where it needs to be, but this left strap still needs to come out just a little bit to make it nice and loose. And now you're able to flip that seat back up. So if you get to the point, again, where you're trying to flip that seat up and it just doesn't want to go, you probably got to loosen up these straps just a hair more, and then it'll be able to flip up nice and easy.